It's a question of whether or not things are better done by individuals themselves or in a collective manner. I don't know how many of you know, the history books don't really go into it much, but the first two permanent colonies in the United States, Jamestown and the Plymouth colony, both were kind of collectivist operations when they started. The Jamestown one, you had to work out a common store. And what the governor noted was that people could work, accomplish more in one day working on their own than they could working for an entire week when they got paid out of the company store, out of the common store. The Plymouth colony had the same experience. They went 3 years with everything held in common. And after starvation, they lost almost half their people the first year, a little more than half the first year. In the Jamestown colony, in those 7 years, of 3,600 settlers that came to America, 3,000 of them died. And finally, in both colonies, they came to a conclusion that having things in collective rather than individual freedom, having private ownership rather than things held in common, was the only way to go. And the reason it wasn't because they were greedy or selfish. The reason it was is people produced so much more and were so much more creative. I don't know how many of you remember the discussion at the time the Berlin Wall came down. I remember it. Yeah, how could you not be charmed by Reagan's comment that, a little before that happened, telling Gorbachev to tear down that wall. I don't know if you remember how you felt when you heard Reagan say that. I guess I kind of thought, well, bless his heart's in the right place, but there's no way that could happen. But somehow Reagan was smarter than all of us, knowing that it would happen. Why do you suppose the East Germans wanted to tear down that wall? Some say it's because the CIA was so effective. There were so many spies. No doubt that the CIA was involved, but I don't think it was their spies. Some say that it was Radio Free Europe, that somehow they'd indoctrinated everybody in East Berlin. But I don't think that was it either. I'll tell you what I think it was. The East Germans looked across that wall, the West Germans, and they saw that people with the same language, the same culture, the same background, the same topography, the same geography, living having 3 times the income that they had. The same people in every respect. The East Germans kind of thought they were better than the West Germans, actually. The same people in every respect, except the Westerners had 3 times the income. When the wall came down, they found out that wasn't true. It wasn't 3 times as much. They had 10 times as much. Think about that. One person producing as much as 10 people do. And yet it was a reality. It was 10 to 1 difference. Don't ever let anybody tell you that freedom doesn't work. It makes all the difference in the world. Whether it's the colonists in Plymouth Colony, or in Jamestown, or simply in the post office. Freedom of enterprise works, and it makes a difference.